Welcome, everybody. I was muted there for a second. Sorry about that, folks. Anyways, welcome. Hope you caught that little snippet there, welcoming you guys in the video there. Glad you guys are here for your informational webinar. That's the 411. So thank you for being here. Welcome to the CNAS Enrollment 411 webinar. My name's Javier Ramirez. I'm the Assistant Director for Major Advising in the College of Natural Agricultural Sciences for the Undergraduate Academic Advising Center. So welcome. I'll go and hand this off to Norma.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. We're excited to have you. My name is Norma Palacios. I'm one of the advising unit supervisors in CNAS, and I advise in the majors of biology and plant biology. So welcome.
Right, and I'll just say my welcome everyone as well. Brett McFarlane, Director of the Advising Success Center here, and I'll be sitting in the background working on questions that you have in chat as we move through today's presentation. So appreciate you taking the time to be here. We're very excited to have you join us in the fall, and I'll turn it back to Javier.
Okay, everybody. So we can get to know you a little bit better. If you would, please type your name in the chat boxes at the bottom of your screen, but also your intended major and also where you're tuning in from today. Where are you at? Let's see if anybody's from overseas right now. That'd be awesome to see. And then as we go through that, that's just to give an idea of who's here and what majors we got within our college, but also just to, see each other a little bit in terms of virtually where we're coming from. Okay, so just a couple little housekeeping items to keep in mind. Welcome there, you guys. Welcome. San Diego, very nice. Go Padres. I'm a Padres fan. All right. Just housekeeping items. The Q&A and chat boxes, if I can get this straight, will be your best friend. Really, that will be the only throughout tonight's event that you can ask any questions to us about CNAS and the advising and how this summer will go in terms of orientation and fall enrollment. Please type them so there are that we can respond as best as we can, and that we'll also be answering them as best as we can as we go throughout the presentation. But it's really after the presentation we'll have a Q&A to address some of the questions that might be popping up for you guys. Okay. All right. So with that said, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So this is here. And so this is a generic overview for you guys to understand that the purpose of this webinar is to give you an inside look at not only the registration process, but the timeline for orientation, Highlander orientation that you guys should be familiar with already, your second phase enrollment, which is your advising session, and how to get the most out of your first year at CNAS. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin after this slide here. All right, so really where we're coming from is the foundation of our academic advising, and really we have a partnership model with you all. When you're admitted to UCR, all of you will be assigned an advisor as we get closer to the fall term. And you will have a specific dedicated advisor based on your major. And we will be helping you along your academic journey. Really, this starts with right now, the first glimpse in our opportunity to talk to you all and introduce ourselves, but also we'll help you all the way through graduation. And it's kind of interesting that in about a week and a half, we're going to be attending the commencement ceremony for students who came in 4 to 5 years ago. It's always a cycle of life. So it is actually, I don't want to sound corny, but I do really enjoy the commencement ceremonies. It's awesome when a student takes the time to say, hey, that's my advisor. And that really makes my day. So we're committed to offering you academic guidance along every step of the way throughout your undergraduate career. We do offer hybrid appointments in the fall once you're here in the fall and for the rest of your time. And we also offer drop-in advising through our general undergraduate advising check-in option, which is known as GUAC. More information to come on that momentarily. Okay. So we're going to look at these phases and these steps and just make a note on these phases that you guys are already familiar with, but we're just here to reinforce it a little and maybe break it down a little more simpler for you guys. So one of the first ones is May 19th. This is Highlander Foundation's Canvas course. So with that said, all of you here should be familiar with Canvas course. The Highlander Foundation's course, the Canvas course, is your main gateway platform to be introduced to UCR, but also your college, your major. You are required to go through this Canvas course and successfully complete it. Okay? And what that means is when you complete it, you're going to be check marking one of the boxes to be prepared for June 23rd. What we call, that'll be a next step I'll talk about in just a moment though. But Highlander Foundations course is really where if you got any questions, the design of the course will hopefully answer those questions. And it'll give you a head start from when you want to go to Highlander orientation. So remember, please access Canvas course via canvas.ucr.edu. And you have to initiate it. Go ahead and get in there. If there are particular issues that occur, I know that my assistants here will provide our cnasstudent.ucr.edu website, or not website, but email. And that's for any issues you may have accessing Canvas. But at this point in time, all of you should have the ability to get in there. Okay, next slide. So I mentioned it briefly a little bit early, was June 23rd. This is phase one. We call LC acceptance or learning community acceptance, and that's enrollment. So CNAS learning communities are basically cohort groups of students where they're based upon 24 units and a group of students, and it's a year-long program. This is referred to as the LC blocks or CNAS learning community blocks. Students in our majors, STEM majors, are grouped according to map placement and major science requirements. So these groups of students are then assigned an LC block of courses based upon the major and math. Students will attend their block courses, which consist of the same lecture, labs, and discussions with reserved seating in core courses for the duration of the program. So cohort students will also have a freshman seminar as part of the LC block. So check out cnasstudent.ucr.edu/CNAS learning communities for more information. Next slide. So we wanted to make sure you understood really the foundations of the LC block, and this is a sample of what may be possible based upon math placement. So this particular sample shows chemistry, which is Gen Chem. It's the first year general chemistry with a lab. And then you'll also see that there's Math 7A. Math 7A happens to be a life science first part calculus course. And then you'll see the freshman seminar. That's what I referred to a little bit earlier. My other co-presenter, Norma, will be talking about the freshman seminar a little bit later. So just keep it in the back of your mind now, for now. These seats in a block like this are reserved. So this goes back to the 24 people in the cohort. There are a dedicated number of 24 seats per block, and this block happens to include chemistry and math and the seminar. In other words, as long as you have that map placement, this block is waiting for your enrollment. Okay, so next slide. All right, I'll let Norma take over on the rest of this.
All right, thank you, Javier. Hopefully you all kind of have somewhat of an idea of what that first phase looks like. It's really focusing on that learning community acceptance, because that could be pretty much half your schedule already built. but it may not be fully built, but we're locking in those core classes. So we're going to kind of move into that second phase. That phase will begin around July 28th. And really that phase is going to be about completing the registration process. And so we're going to finalize that schedule, make sure it's having all the important pieces, for example, being full-time. As Javier noted in that learning community block, I don't know if some of you, maybe some of you math majors perhaps were already adding up those units. You might see that not all of those units might equal a full course load. So in that final stage of scheduling, we will confirm all of that, make sure you all have the units needed, and that's going to take place July 28th through August 8th. I do want to point out that July 28th and 29th will be the days for our special priority programs who will enroll, and then everyone else will be able to enroll. So it's really important that you're beginning this journey right now with that Canvas course, leading all the way up to the steps that are needed to finalize your registration when that begins in July 28th. So hopefully that is clear. Now, Javier did mention NASC courses, freshman seminar. I want to point out that that is built into your learning community blocks. So it is a course that's part of your block, and it's an introductory seminar course for first-year students. So it's designed to have content in the course that is important for our first-year students. It's led by advisors in CNAS as well as peer mentors. So it's a really nice way to introduce you to some of the more important concepts your first year, learning a little bit about your major, some planning, understanding how to connect your career with your major, and just kind of exploring different areas that are critical coming in as a first-year student. Part of it is also looking at resources and getting some other important guidance on career and advisement, an introduction to working with faculty. So it's a really great opportunity, and you'll learn about research as well. So the freshman seminar course is a really great course to have in your block to get that introduction. Okay, so we're kind of moving through this pathway here. Once we kind of solidify the schedule and get that nice and done, we get to kind of party a little bit. We have a little bit of a welcome week for you all, kind of to kick off the fall quarter, because I guarantee you that is going to come very quickly. And that's scheduled to take place sometime a week or so before the quarter begins. What happens at Welcome Week, it's really a big meet and greet. We get to talk to faculty, we get to kind of hang out with advisors and other students, other first-year students. We usually have pizza as part of our menu for that day, and we're kind of hanging out in our physics courtyard, which is a pretty big area, have some music. So it's a really great way to kind of end the registration and get ready to get locked in for fall quarter. Okay, so just to kind of recap a little bit of what Javier has shared, what I have shared, some important dates to keep in mind is you want to make sure through June 20th, you really kind of got your hands in that Highlanders Foundation course. We're really trying to communicate some critical information to prepare you. I know you all are probably, eager and wanting to know what you should be doing. And that's exactly where you should be at this point, is getting all that information through that foundations course. The other critical thing for our CNAS students is that math and writing placement. Math is critical. All of you are in majors that fundamentally require math as a gateway foundational course that then builds and leads into your other critical classes moving forward. So we really want to make sure you have placement. Also, if you noticed, our learning communities are built upon math placement. So without the math, we can't really assign you into an appropriate learning community. So make sure you're getting those placements done. And then, as Javier pointed out, that first phase, which is really focusing on getting that learning community registration, that will occur June 23rd. That's going to be the first kind of introduction to getting to begin kind of creating that schedule. And then second phase will be that phase where we finalize and complete your fall registration, and that will take place July 28th through August 8th. Okay, and we kind of, I think, concluded the main pieces of registration, and we're just going to kind of do a quick plug for some of our videos that we have created. These are really cool videos to help you really navigate the registration process. It introduces a lot of really important information in a really great and fun way. You should be receiving copies of our Echo, the e-newsletter for CNAS, Highlander orientation. Every 2 weeks, you should be getting some updates in there. And you want to just check out the CNAS Spinorama, next question. And these are all, again, really cool features. You'll see some peer mentors in the videos. You'll see our director in the video. So it's a really cool way to get introduced to us as well. Okay, so that concludes our formal presentation. And at this time, we're going to invite you all to ask any questions that you may have using the chat or the Q&A box.
Okay. Thank you for that, Norma. So as we will be going through this, any questions you got, we'll be able to hopefully get to these live. So the question also was about when does second phase or advising session begin? Yes, it'll start at 9. And so you will be given notification of that officially in terms of how to access it as we get closer to that date. So you will be giving most likely a Zoom meeting link, and then you'll join it at a specific session. Yeah, so that'll happen at that point. Okay. So the other thing we want to emphasize too here in terms of real importance in order to access the learning community block enrollment, which begins June 23rd, is you also got to have map placement or credit posted to your record. Okay. So it's really vital and important to have that along with Canvas completion. Those are the two steps you must complete in order to have that LC, Learning Community Enrollment opportunity. Now, one thing I will specify is keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier about the block, technically these seats are waiting for you. So let's say you don't access Learning Community Enrollment as soon as it opens on June 23rd. Don't think of it as, oh, I'm losing my seat. Just know that there's a dedicated cohort, a block for each situation for students to get. Now, I would say, though, that as we get later into the summer, and I'm talking about mid-July to late July, that's where seats will become more scarce. So it is a first come, first served basis, but I would not be stressed about trying to get those map placements if you know you're waiting, for example, AP exam scores to come in. Okay, so that's just a little bit of advice for you there. And it would be best to wait for your AP scores to come in. But again, you'd have to judge that yourself in terms of, hey, did I do well on the AP exam? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I passed it. And if you think you did, you may want to wait for those scores to come in, and they won't be available until just after July 7th. Now, I know you saw earlier July 1st was posted. That's for the general incoming freshman class, but CNAS will allow up to July 7th and thereafter in that week for your map placements to be posted, okay? So that's something to consider as we go through this. So I'm going to see what we can look here. If you can help me out, Norma, if there's any questions we haven't addressed, but let's see here.
Yes,
Do you have
there
an idea?
were, they're
Yeah.
going, they're going pretty fast in the chat. I think there was
Yeah.
a question about when do transfers register? And I
Oh,
believe that would be
yeah.
like early September, right? That
It's going to be
first.
early September, and it'll be 4 days, I believe, or 3 days possibly for CNAS. The format will be completely different in terms of what freshmen experience. So an incoming transfer will have a whole virtual experience except for their orientation day. So there'll be dedicated days that week, like before the registration sessions. The registration sessions are going to be all virtual, just as it is with freshmen. So there's a little parallel similarities, but that's not going to happen until early September.
Yeah, it looks like there was another question about the start of advising for the advising sessions, but I believe you answered that
Yeah,
around,
9 o'clock.
yeah, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a
Yeah.
question from Scotty. Can you tell us more about guac? What is it and how does it work?
Yeah, guac is something we came up through our brilliant leader here, Brett, that we wanted to make ourselves more accessible to students. Students were filling out our surveys. They were basically telling us, look, we need more options for meeting with you guys. So the leaders, the supervisors within our advising staff put our heads together along with Brett, and then we came up with Guac. And again, that's for general undergraduate advising check-ins. Basically, they're drop-in sessions for the whole week. We have dedicated hours for virtual drop-ins, and we have in-person hours for drop-ins. And it's throughout the week, and they're offered every day. Now, what I want to clarify there, though, is virtual hours are only offered like on a certain day and another day. But then we have in-person advising like on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, for example. So these are things that we want to do to make ourselves available to you. And it's worked out really well. Students have actually, we hear faculty comment on this. Faculty are actually referring students to our guac sessions. So in other words, questions that you guys have, you're able to get answers to. I mean, at the end of the day, all of our advisors are trying to do their best to get back to you via email. But if you don't get a response in 2 or 3 days, go to Guac. Chances are you'll be able to get a response by then. Now, I see a question here. I think it's a good one. Yahir, if you don't do well on the math placement, does that negatively impact you at all? Or does it only help you if you do good? Well, that's a very good question. Look, the primary thing to do is focus on doing well in whatever placement you get. That's really it. I know that sounds like, okay, that's not very helpful, Javier, but what I would say is, look, there is time to complete your math courses with your science courses in a timely manner. It can work out. So let's look at one end of the math placement level. One is Math 3. This is kind of like an introductory to college mathematics. It's almost similar to intermediate algebra, but it's not defined that way. The math department came up with this new course. And that's a level where you have to then go into another level, and now you're in calculus. Then the other end of math level is calculus placement. Now, if students place at the lower level of that Math 3 placement, I guess the question is, can you graduate on time? Absolutely. Absolutely. And you just have to adjust your plan accordingly. That's where we come in to assist you with that. So if you have concerns about that going into the fall term, all you have to do is make sure you make an appointment with your advisor, and they'll work with you on how to plan out your first and second year so you understand, okay, I can do this. But I will tell you, it most likely will involve at least a 1 summer or 2 summers to make sure you're on pace for where you want to be by the end of 4 years. So, okay. Let's see here.
Looks like there was a question. Does UCR only take AP Calc, ABBC, or also AP Pre-Calc?
We take them all. We take them all, right? We take AP wherever it's sanctioned and it's been accredited. So the College Board, as long as the College Board administers it and you take it through, appropriate means, signing up, and it's proctored and all that stuff, and it's official, we'll take the score. So we do recognize AP, AB version and BC version, but we also recognize the subscore versions as well. So just keep in mind that whatever you test into, as far as, the pass, whether if it's, 3 or higher is always passing, but, if you get a 2 on a subscore for the AB exam, we're still going to have a math placement for you, believe it or not. So your goal is to do as well as you can if you still have that, and who knows, those dates are probably gone by now, your test dates. But hopefully, if you got that, we will review what your possible math credits will be with that. So yes. Let's see, any that I'm missing?
Javier, one of the questions was about that probably applies to everybody about if I don't start in math 7A, will I be behind? So maybe you
Yeah.
could discuss that one.
Yeah, that goes a little bit to what I said earlier with the previous question, is like, is it a good thing or a bad thing, right? Look, ultimately, you will graduate on time. I would say, look, I think the idea of making progress is always, a great virtue in terms of your, whatever work you're bringing, what kind of commitment and dedication you have to what you do with your academics. Just know that you will be able to generate a pretty good course plan with your advisor. And it would likely, like, let's say if you're not at calculus level, that's fine. The goal is for you to get through your math progress so you can get into those sciences. But your advisor will work with you one-on-one to get a course plan going. And yes, we've seen, and here's the thing. I can tell you that our reports have revealed that when students had the lowest level math placement, they've gone on to be very successful PhD candidates, and they've gone into very higher degree levels. So my what I'm saying there is obviously you can get there, and you can do it in 4 years. It may involve a summer or two, but there will be a plan you can make with your advisor on that.
Yeah. And I wanted to kind of reiterate what Javier had said. We offer a very robust list of courses over the summer. We even have graduating seniors who graduate in the summer because they're still able to take courses. So I wouldn't concern yourselves right now with being behind. I would really encourage you all to come in and get very acclimated with the resources that are there to provide you with the support and the kind of hand up that you're going to need to do well successfully. So yeah, the math placement is just where you start, right? It's just kind of your starting point.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So I have a student saying here, when will transfer students be able to meet with advisors to know what counts? So
I
the
think I
what we
answered that one too,
oh
Javier.
you did? Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, so
Now, here's
transfers
one
can,
you haven't answered. What's the best part about being a CNAS academic advisor?
Oh wow.
uh,
For me personally, it's always about, students come in and they trust me when they got to talk about a tough subject. And those are the moments where I slow down with a student and I can see they're having a hard time trying to explain to me what's going on. And I'll go, you know what? You don't have to share everything, but I appreciate you sharing that with me. Part of it is being able just to connect with a person. That's what's great about, not just CNAS students, but UCR students and people, is that's why we do what we do. I think I can tell you that I'm into this because I like helping people. I mean, that's been That's been my trait. I got to tell you, even when I was an undergrad and when I was a sophomore, junior, senior, I still had a sense of always trying to help people. So I think in that regard, I really appreciate the CNAS students in that regard, but that also they're so goal oriented in a way where I love seeing them make their achievements, and look, at the end of the day, I I'm just happy to see them make and realize their achievements. So that's what it is for me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't want to go into probably more because I see all the questions coming too. I could probably talk for a while about what I appreciate about working with you all. But it's really helping you kind of reach that finish line, and there's going to be some turns and some twists and some rerouting that could happen, and we get to be part of helping you figure that out. And hopefully that comes through very strongly because I really appreciate the work that I do with you all. So shifting to some of these questions, let's see here. Do we need anything specific by our side for the virtual orientation and advising session? I would say just kind of have handy, maybe if you do have AP scores, having a copy of that, or if you've taken any community college math or courses at a community college, specifically math or
Transcript,
English.
transcript
Yeah,
copy.
having a transcript handy, and just making sure you have a good device that has your Wi-Fi and all that ready to go. Those could be some small hiccups, but yeah. And of course, having the Canvas course also in case you need to refer back to any of the information there. So having those things handy.
And for transfers, we'll be making the Canvas available. So at a certain point in time, I believe by next week thereabouts, transfers will have access to Canvas. So this Canvas course we've been referring to really has been for freshmen. That's been open since May 19th, but the transfers is soon to open, and you will have the, specific information for you all as you get prepared for the fall enrollment.
Mhm. It looks like we have a question maybe that might be helpful to answer live from Emily. If I get a low math placement, will it prevent me from taking required science courses? Honestly, I like to think of it as placement, right? Low, high, it's placement. It's your starting point. And everyone's starting point is going to look different. It's a little different than high school. Everyone's kind of doing the same thing every year, perhaps. But when you get to college, you're on a different path. I mean, you're it's like a maze. Everyone's kind of going differently. So I just want to put that out there, low placement. It's placement. It's where you place, it's where your starting point. Now, depending on the math placement, you're going to learn very quickly in CNAS with a lot of our courses. They're sequential and they got prereqs, and you're kind of working through one before you get to the other. Math is the gateway class. So depending on where you start, you may not necessarily be taking general chemistry your first quarter or biology your first quarter. So you just want to make sure that you get through those prereqs so you're prepared to take those required sciences. But yes, you're going to learn that some of your peers might have different schedules with different core classes because math, again, is a fundamental course that serves as a prereq and a gateway into other sciences. So it could look like prevent sounds just like we're a barrier. To me, it's like you got to be prepared, right? Have the prereqs, but yeah, it could limit how many sciences you might possibly take in the quarter.
Do have a question here. I want to make sure we get to it. Anissa says, I took the AP Calculus BC test during May. If by any chance I didn't pass the test, when do I take the math placement exam? And when do I need to submit it by? Well, that's where I was saying earlier, it's a little tough to gauge, right? You optimistically want to say, yeah, I passed it, right? That's true. Totally, you may want to just know that, right? And that's perfectly fine. The other aspect to your question is, well, really what you're asking is, should I take the math placement exam? Ultimately, that's going to be your preference, your call. What we would say is to ensure the most accurate learning community block schedule you could get, wait until the results come in. Now, as I said earlier, those AP scores for any recent exams taken, and you've indicated this May, they really won't be posted until after July 7th. That's the normative time frame for them to be posted. Now, I would say to you that it's okay to wait until then. But if you feel like, you know what, I just want to be double sure that this is okay, you go ahead and take the map placement. So there's no harm or foul taking the map placement, because let's say you get the good news and you got a passing score. The passing score will override the map placement you got through the map placement exam. So I hope that helps there.
So I put in the link. We also have an opportunity in the summer called HESA, which is our Highlander Early Start Academy. And that's the opportunity for you to actually get some courses done this summer before you start in the fall. So I wanted to share just this grid here. You can see, depending on if you're in Math 3, 6A, 5A placement, you have options for that as you move through. So that's another opportunity. And we can, of course, share more about that if you have any questions about that program. The ARC can help as well with that.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Brett. Any other questions coming through? Yeah, the whole thing is there's always a thing of yeah, where am I starting, right? And is it going to be a setback? You guys, is perfectly normal. I totally had that sensation coming. Look, it's been a long time since I was a freshman in college, okay? But I can remember how nerve-wracking it was for me, how isolated I feel. I didn't know anybody. And what made it worse was, well, it was a big school. I went from a very small environment to a big school. So, look, you're going to progress. You're going to get through this. And ultimately, that's what we're here for in regards to your planning. And so if you have concerns about that, please don't hesitate to reach out to schedule an appointment as soon as the fall term begins. Okay. In the meantime, what really the focus of the summer is to get you enrolled in courses for the fall. We know you have many questions about like minor, double majors, med school, professional development, internships, etc. Summer is unfortunately the time where we don't have the time to cover all those things, but that's what we're here for you once school begins. So just know that our main objective, greeting you all, is to get you thoroughly prepared for a great schedule to have in the fall term. Okay. Yeah, good question about really what you want to do. And this is the official message from UCR for undergraduates, is you got to take 15 units a term. Now, in terms of how many classes should I take? Well, 15 units is kind of hard to earn because the vast majority of courses are offered as 4-unit courses. So therefore, you're technically going to earn 16 units a term. If you earn 16 units a term, you're going to graduate in 4 years, so long as you successfully pass through your courses and make progress. So, however, though, some students are kind of like, okay, I don't know about that. Let me just take 3 courses, which is 12 units. That's perfectly fine, because 12 or higher units is full-time status. So for financial aid purposes, insurance purposes, discount insurance purposes, 12 units or more will be sufficient. Some students make that decision because some students have commitments to part-time employment, commitments at home. And so they really want to make sure they make a good adjustment from your previous institution to UCR by just easing in with 12 units or so. But your goal is to be at 16 though, because that will be the adequate progress to make as time goes on. Okay.
Javier, Kevin had a good question. Does the English placement also have a great impact on our academics?
Well, in CNAS undergraduate majors, the short answer is no. However, okay, we do need to specify the English placement, or what we have redefined as writing placements, do have time restrictions to complete. Now, if students demonstrate LWIR writing requirements, which is the university UC-wide requirement to demonstrate writing competency to start in your freshman year composition, you've met the LWIR requirement and there's no time restriction or time constraint. If a student places lower than LWIR standard, you are under a time constraint to finish that course. So depending on the course, you have to take it and finish it within the first 3 terms or in the first 5 terms, technically. In that sense, there is an impact if a student has not finished it by the end of those terms. But if you test and demonstrate LWIR, there's no impact. You just got to finish your English. Well, now, excuse me, there I go again. It's defined as writing 10, writing 20, writing 30. This is your freshman year composition. And as long as you finish it before you graduate, there's no other issue with that. But if it's lower than LWIR standard, then that's where there is a time frame to finish that in a timely manner. So I hope that helps. So we got a 5-minute warning here from Scotty. Any questions before we conclude? We'll take one more question if we haven't answered it, or unless we got one identified. I think we did pretty good.
Yeah, I think there was one from Scotty. What's the biggest advantage to being in an LC? Yeah.
The
Good
research,
question.
the data results. The data results show that when students have participated in the learning community cohort in their first year and completed it, one, they tended to have a higher GPA average at the end of the first year compared to their counterparts who were not in the LC. And by the end of 4 years, they graduated on time compared to their counterparts who didn't participate in an LC. So that's also not including the high impact opportunities you will have. You will have the opportunity to participate in a research opportunity your very first, I guess, technically end of your freshman year, sophomore year. I got to tell you, that's a very rare opportunity that students have at that level. So you get to interact with faculty. So you have stronger networking going on with the LC experience, but also it's your peer support. I will tell you, and I'm not making this up, I love seeing when we taught these freshman seminar courses, like Norma and I, we teach them. And I still see my group of students from my class hanging out their junior and senior year. I'll see them out in the coffee bean area where the hub is, the Highlander Union Building, where that's the main place where everybody eats, has a good time getting caught up with each other, stopping, have some tea or coffee. I see them still in like groups of 3 or 5. So that's awesome to see. That's awesome to see.
And aside from that, one of the greatest perks too, and being in the program, is your core classes are secured the first year, because you're in the program. It is a 1-year program, but it minimizes a little bit of the worry or stress of having to kind of make sure you get into your core classes. So that's also a really cool perk. Of course, Javier is really sharing some more fundamental impacts, but it's okay to also look at the cool little perk of getting your core classes. Yeah.
Think about it. You guys don't have to stress about, oh, I got to get Chem next quarter. I got to get Chem. They're going to fill up. No, your seat's right there. It's waiting for you. We have a question for Jeffrey. Good question. What actions can you take when you haven't received an acceptance email from learning community, I believe? So we are just now in the beginning phase of being able to assign LCs. We can only assign learning community blocks accordingly, based upon, map placement and then completion of Canvas. We're still actually in the early stage of that, even though the 23rd is right around the corner. But we will be prepared to assign those. Now, I know there's also the living learning community experience with the residents. I'm not entirely clear on what the actual process for participation is, but you definitely need to connect with housing and residents where you've applied for housing and residence to get that information to ensure that if you choose to do it, you could actually be blocked together in a living hall room with other students who are in that same LC. That enhances really the connection piece between you and your peers. So yeah, but more information should be really available through the housing and residence for the LLC. Yeah. Thank you, Brett.
So, yeah, so it looks like we gotta get ready to wrap up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So yeah, thank you. You know what, you guys, thank you for being here. I just got to tell you guys just being here is going to make a huge impact for you all as you begin your year here at UCR. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you this summer and in the fall. Anyone else want to say bye?
Yeah, thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your summer and get ready to lock in for the fall.
All right, you're welcome.
Eat
Thank you,
pizza with
guys.
you. We'll be eating pizza soon enough. So,
Yes, we will. We will.
yeah, we're really
Okay.
excited. So excited to see you soon.
Okay, Victoria. Thank you. Yeah. Kevin, thanks.
Just keep watching your email.
Just keep watching your emails.
There's
Oh,
an-
thank you, Brett. You guys check your UCR email account. Don't just check your personal, your students now, your Highlanders. Please go to your UCR email accounts as well. Okay. All right, you guys.